Hello there guys, and welcome back to the Titan Quest builds. I recently got requested to do the Thunderer class next, which consists of Storm and Rune Masteries. So this is the one I'm doing now, the Thunderer class. So let's go straight to the skills. So there are two ways to play this class, pretty much, two viable ways you're most likely to go with. You'll either be a melee class who is more like a hybrid, or you will be a complete caster. So let's start with melee first. With melee, I'd say you're probably better off going first with the Rune Mastery. The reason for that, so you can get the Rune Weapon skill. And this will be your left mouse button skill, and it will be vastly improving your damage potential and pretty much gives you a ton of bonuses. And the energy drain buff, the energy drain skill is especially good because it will be debuffing enemies, and the magical charge as well will be quite nice because it will be adding some elemental damage and also doing some elemental retaliation. And then you could possibly also go for transmutation because that one will be converting a lot of your damage to elemental. Now this will be better if you actually do want to be mostly concentrating on elemental damage output, but if you just want to be more of a physical damage class with some elemental damage, then transmutation won't be a good idea. Then you got Sacred Rage. I only had enough to put 1 point in each, but at least 1 point if you can get earlier, that's good enough. If you can to max it out later, that will be very beneficial. I kind of ran out of points here, but it's a bit versatile with some of the skills you can go for. I didn't go for Reckless Offense or the Energy Shield, as I think you got much better skills to go for with this class. I did go for Rune Feather because the offensive ability bonus is still good if you're going melee. I mean, you might actually benefit a bit from strength requirement from weapons, because if you're going melee, you're still going to be using physical weapons. But the offensive ability is going to be more of a thing here. And then Runewood Explode, I'd go for at least 1 point here for that occasional stun and also the arc of attack. And if you get a chance, you could max it, but if you don't, then it doesn't matter. And then Runewood Absorb, that one is good for getting some energy from some of the enemy attacks, and since you'll be going shield, you could go for, although I'd say this is not, it's one of the less compulsory ones to go for with this class, because you could put those 8 points instead in the Sacred Rage if you think your survival is more at stake than how much energy you have. Now Thunderstrike, that'll be fantastic, because, like I say with all the rune classes, Thunderstrike is an amazing skill, you should definitely get it. And now that you've got Storm Mastery as your second mastery as well, that'll be increasing your lightning damage output, so Thunderstrike will be fantastic to go for with this class if you're going melee. Then Seal of Fate and Runic Mines, I don't usually like going for them with the rune classes. You could make them work, but I think there are better skills you can go for. And Rune of Life is fantastic for pretty much any rune class, so I definitely go for that. Even if you won't benefit too much from the strength increase, you'll still be getting some good vitality and bleeding resistances, which is not that easy to find. I didn't go for a Menhir Wall and the Guardian Stones. Again, they're kind of like, if they really suit your playstyle, you might go for them, but I think they're better for casters, so as a melee class, probably not that good idea to go for them. Now, still staying melee, and with the Storm Mastery, what you'd go for. Now, you could go for Lightning Bolt. I think it's not compulsory though, so that's quite a lot of points you'll be putting, so it's 24 points. I think you could put those points instead in the Sacred Rage from the Rune Mastery, as you remember, or somewhere else really. But I think Lightning Bolt is a nice skill, and since you will be having some degree of elemental damage output, especially with your Rune Weapon, which increases your intelligence, so you could do really well with the Lightning Bolt. I think it's a nice skill to go for. Spellbreaker, it's one of the skills that you could really make it powerful, but you might need a specific gear combination for that, and I won't advise it for every build of this class, but for some builds it could be really nice. Now, the same thing with the Ice Shards. Ice Shards if you max out the entire tree and if you increase your casting speed to 300%, you can be extremely deadly with ice shards. Although they do eat through your energy pretty quickly. But they do require a lot of skill points. So since this class you will be spending skill points in so many skills, I'd probably not go for ice shards unless you want to specifically just focus on them. Now Thunderball, I usually put 1 point in that and in its synergy because it's a nice skill for stunning enemies. So that will be a good way to sort of start off a battle. You stun the enemies and then you charge in. Now the Wisp will be pretty good for this class as well, because with its synergy it gives you some nice buffs. So what it will be giving you, apart from cold and lightning resistances, it also gives you at maximum points, it gives you plus 100% elemental damage. Now on top of the buffs to elemental damage that you get already with the rune weapon, that's another massive buff to elemental damage. You could be dealing so much elemental damage if you actually stack up these bonuses. And we haven't even gotten to Storm Nimbus yet, which I will get to in a second, because the next skill is here, Squall, and Squall is a very nice debuff. So most, or pretty much all Storm classes should go for Squall, because it's a nice debuff to enemy resistances, it deals some damage, it also makes archers miss. So the Storm Nimbus, that will be a very useful buff to go for, because together with the rune weapon, that will be pretty powerful combination. And I said with the Wisp's bonus as well to elemental damage, you be combining so many buffs to elemental damage, particularly to cold and lightning damage, that you could be pretty powerful, you know. And if you're also using transmutation synergy from the rune weapon, remember the very top one, then that one will be converting a lot of your physical damage to elemental as well, which will be benefiting from these bonuses as well. So this is a very nice combination. Now Storm Surge, I usually just put 1 point in that, but it's a very nice passive buff in the sense that 15% chance to trigger, so that's basically going to be triggering quite often. So I definitely go for that, stuns all the enemies around you. So it's always good for those moments whenever you get swarmed and surrounded, and then it's bound to trigger, and then the enemy's going to get stunned, and it gives you a bit of a breather, you know. I don't usually like Freezing Blast much because it's kind of just stalls things a bit, and it makes it harder for you to damage the enemy that you encased in ice. So I mean, there doesn't see much point to that. Got much better skills to go for than that. And then finally with the Storm's version of the energy shield, don't confuse it with the other energy shield that Rune Mastery had. The Storm's version, actually this is a skill that I've always told you to ignore, because before the Anniversary Edition update, this was actually just, it was behaving the same way as the Rune energy shield is actually. It was just absorb a certain amount of damage and then it just switch off. Now, with the post-Anniversary Edition update, if you actually read in the skills description, it will actually say that it's no longer doing that behavior. It's actually a timed buff now. And let me just check. And basically it's a 100-second duration, so that's more than enough to last you for most of the boss fights. And the good thing about this one is that it's not going to be like your complete life savior, but it will be protecting you from cold and lightning damage types. So if you do get a chance, I mean, I didn't get a chance to put here, but I think at least 1 or 2 points in that will be quite beneficial. So if you could sink at least 1 or 2 points in that will be pretty great, and it will help you with survival. I mean, just at 1 point, that's already grants you 10% damage absorption, which is not bad already, and then it increases by 5% with each point. And now I'm going to cover the caster, and I'm going to just pretty much just tell you the differences between caster and a melee. So going back to Rune Mastery, with the caster, I didn't go for Rune Weapon because the Rune Weapon doesn't work with staffs, it works only with melee weapons, so you freeing up a lot of skill points. So a lot of these skill points you would have spent in Rune Weapon, you would spend in many other places. So now here I could actually max out the Sacred Rage tree, and then I also put in 12 points in Guardian Stones. So again, I'd say it's not compulsory, but I think Guardian Stones would be quite nice for a mage class like this, because they will be protecting you, and you don't, as a mage, you don't want enemies to actually get close to you, so you want something to keep them away, and Guardian Stones would be quite nice for that. And pretty much everything else stays the same as the melee, so in this Rune Mastery. And with the Storm, I went for Lightning Bolt again, and Thunderball and Squall, pretty much the standard skills. And if you have spare skill points, like loads of spare skill points, then you would go for Ice Shards. If not, then forget about it. And again, Wisp, you'd want as much elemental damage as possible, because now that you don't have Rune Weapon, you're not getting the bonus from that, so you need bonuses from other places, as many as possible. So Storm Nimbus maxed that out, and here I could actually max out the energy shield, so that will be actually really nice. And I'll tell you, at full 12 points, you're actually getting 65% damage absorption from lightning and cold damage types. So that's really great. I mean, it's only 2 damage types, but consider how many bosses actually deal damage in that. You'll be pretty much resisting a ton of damage from them. And as a mage, since you're going to be very fragile, you want this kind of protection. And also, if you look at its synergy, reflection, although I'd say you probably won't have as many skill points left over to put in that, but if you put in at least just 1 point in that, that's already 25% chance to reflect 50% of the damage. That's already pretty nice. I mean, not fantastic, but it's pretty great. You don't get that much of a increase after that. You're only getting like a 1% extra increase and for a few more percent of damage reflected. But with 1 point, it's pretty decent already. And now I'll just cover the stat points, the attributes. So with the melee, it's going to be probably a bit trickier because you'll be spreading your points quite a lot. And I think it will be pretty similar to how you invest in the hybrid classes, because you'll be using both physical damage and elemental damage, so you need both strength and intelligence, and you need some dexterity, of course, because you need some dexterity requirement for the gear, and also you need offensive and defensive ability. So I'd say either ratio of 2 in strength to 1 in intelligence and 1 in dexterity, or 2 in strength to 2 in intelligence and 1 in dexterity. So it depends. It depends on how much you want elemental damage to play part. If you completely hardly using much elemental damage, you mostly concentrate on physical, then you put a lot less in intelligence. And then if you actually want more emphasis on elemental damage, then you put a lot more in intelligence. And with the caster, you pretty much put all of your points in intelligence. You can forget about strength. You would put some in dexterity, because some of the mage gear would have dexterity requirement, and you don't want to have too low of a defensive ability. And also you might want to put some in the energy, because with so many spells to cast, you would need actually some extra energy so you don't run out too fast. And that was the Thunderer class, so I hope this was helpful, guys, and let me know in the comments which rune class you want me to tackle next. So see you guys later. Bye bye.